Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for part number 3 of daily number 406, where we learn to be a better gamer. We're talking all about the late game. In parts 1 and 2, we did an extended session about Liquid Hero, under the idea OGS Hero, doing some delightful positioning in the late game, helping him get more expansions up and helping him secure a nice little win. We also saw his late game transition to Void Rays when he saw the Brood Lords. That was a trigger to help him step forward. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look up a game from Flankzilla, who submitted today's replay that we're looking at against a person named Limber. And I want to begin in kind of a similar fashion to how we did last time. I'm going to go to, I don't know, around the 15-minute mark. I think that's a good time to begin doing that. Let me slow the game down a little bit. Excellent. As we look, the first question we ask ourselves is, do we have everything we want? Well, I mean, first of all, we're going Zerglings and Mutalisks. We have some Zerglings and Mutalisks out on the field being active, helping rip apart this orbital command. We have 3 bases up, maybe not as many drones as we'd want. We're getting the, let's see, the upgrades melee carapace. We're getting a 4th. That's actually quite nice. I'm very delighted about that. I kind of feel like there should be another hatchery here to help us out as well. Now, you're going to notice some things that I ignored. Look at the money. We have a lot of money right now. Obviously, you want to keep your money low in the course of a game, but at the 15-minute mark, when we start our late game, around the 18-ish minute mark, when we look there, I don't want you to think things like, I have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of money. I want you to think of things as, do I have what I want? Yes, no. For instance, do I have everything I want? For Flankzilla, I would say we have almost everything we want. We have 3 running expansions. We're taking a 4th, but you know what? I want a macro hatch. Now that I've identified that, do I have the money to do that? Yes. Cool, so I can do that beforehand. Now, in this daily, we're not going to talk about early and mid-game or any of that garbage. Any of that total dog shit, right? We're going to just talk about the late game. So as long as we can just make sure that we want some of these things that we don't have, we can try to work in some of those things in future games. So I'm just going to begin like that. Yeah, we can work that in. Now, what's another thing we did with Liquid Hero? We did this snapshot analysis. We did this thing where we went from the 15-minute to the 18-minute mark. And we said, did anything change? Are we getting more things? Well, looks like we're getting the upgrade. Nothing's really changed that much. This expansion has guys mining gas, and it looks like we've gotten a bigger army. So, okay, so far so good. As we come to the 21-minute mark, I'm noticing, okay, we have a hive. Good, we're making some progress. Let me actually go to the Flankzilla cam. We have a big army, and banelings are rolling, and of course, Limber's hating. But notice what happens as I continue to go along. 24 minutes. Do we even have a greater spire up? Well, it looks like we're trying. Literally a full 3 minutes passed, and we didn't have a greater spire. Yeah, we're getting some upgrades up. That's good. But we haven't taken any more expansions. Look at the 27-minute mark. No additional expansions. Look at the 30-minute mark. No additional expansions. Look at the 33-minute mark. Oh, thank God we took another expansion. Mid and late game is all about us taking more expansions and us restricting our opponent's expansions. So you might say, well, day 9, we just looked at Flankzilla through, a long period of time. Maybe he was aggressively trying to stop a Limber from expanding. Cool. You know what? Completely valid point. Let's go back to that 24-minute mark we were at before, and you can, actually, excuse me, screw it, 18-minute mark, damn it. Screw it, 15-minute mark, damn it. Gosh darn it. But frigate. Yes, I'm the commander, I'm the captain of the butt frigate. We are a cargo shipment for things that you are trying to get rid of. Get it? Good. Thank God I brought funny to the table today. Alright, so we're talking about us taking expansions and us restricting expansions. Yeah, we have our opponent down to 2 bases. Nifty. Let's go ahead and go to 18 minutes. And it looks like he's taken this expansion brand new, brand spanking new. At 21 minutes, have we restricted it anymore? No, it actually looks like it's up and running. Hasn't been upgraded to anything yet. That way it can still load up SCVs and run away. Let's go to the 24-minute mark. And it looks like our Zerg player is still not shutting down this expansion at all. I mean, if he's not making attempts to expand, he should be making attempts to take out expands. And suddenly here we see, geez, at 27-minute mark, still hasn't taken it out. At the 30-minute mark, as a matter of fact, another expansion is up for a Limber, and Flankzilla still has not taken that out. And gosh, at the 33-minute mark, all these expansions are up, and Flankzilla taking a fourth. This is actually a pretty easy exercise to do for yourself, because when you load up a replay, you go all the way to the end. It only lets you load it up every 3 minutes. Like, for instance, I wonder if I can remove this overlay, if I can pop this down. Yeah, if you can actually come over here to this sidebar here. As I scroll, notice that it only lets me go to 30 minutes. 27, 24, 21, 18, 15... I mean, it was semi-arbitrary that I was choosing that in the first place, but the fact is, it's how the replay works, right? So when you load up your games and you look at these little snapshots of yourself, you can get a really rapid comic book style frames of how your game went, and you'll see really sharply. No expand for really long time. You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the details of StarCraft 2 to say things like, oh, well, there was an attack, I was trying to defend, and I thought maybe I could swing around the back and do some harassment, but he got expansion, I'm trying to transition into the late game. You use all the right words, but then when you just look at it 3 minutes at a time and no expand, no expand, no expand, no expand, I don't want to go another 3 minutes because I'll be embarrassed. That's when you realize there's some room for improvement. So what I want to talk about a little bit more right now is the idea of unit movement and expanding. Obviously, Flankzilla has the money to expand. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Obviously, we're getting our hive up so we can get those brood lords up. Great transition. Often the Ghost Viking transition for Terran or the Void Ray or Mothership transition for Protoss is prompted by Zerg doing this. Zerg doesn't have to be prompted to go for a Greater Spire. He just sort of feels it. So let's go ahead and start asking ourselves some questions. Where are we most comfortable to be expanding right now? Well, here, let's assume there's no rocks, or here. Pick one. Which one's most safe to be expanding between these two? Definitely this one. Why? Boom. Mutalisks in the way. Bam. A lot of creep in the way, giving us that opportunity. There's stuff in between the expansion that we want to take and his whole frickin' army. Cool beans. Cool beans. Now I'm going to speed this up to ×4 because I can. Where is he likely to expand? Here, here, or here? Obviously just want to throw down some spotters on them. This sort of motion, these sort of movements are things that people do to win games. And if Flankzilla crushed this and got a GG, it's so easy for Flankzilla to not learn there, to go, I won the game, bang, 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 and to be satisfied. But I'll ask again, with this attack, what's the best place to expand? Clearly here is very safe. This is somewhat safe given the positioning of this attack. I would probably label this as not the safest place to go, though. But I still want you to be aware that this expansion is fairly safe given this army positioning. Because again, it's very easy to look at here and to go, oh, that's a Limbers expand. I don't expand there. That's not my property. Sure, it can be your property. You have guns. And guns can always get you more property, especially if you live in the Midwest. So cool. Now, Flankzilla did do a killer blow to that expansion. But you'll notice there's something that happened here that we didn't see happen to Liquid Hero. This ended up being very close. Let me move up here. I would say one of the biggest mistakes you can ever do in StarCraft is just try to kill his army. That is a horrifically wrong thing to do. Right now, we're seeing Flankzilla kill off an expansion. And now he's going to try to kill off an army? Now, contrast this. Right here, when the orbital command detonates, Flankzilla should box everything and run away. He doesn't need to kill off the army. Not at all. If you're being threatened and suddenly you're going to lose an expansion and you want to try to kill off his army to keep your expansion alive, that's great. If you need to wreck through his army to take out his expansion or to get into his main, that's great. If there's an army in the middle of the map and you're thinking, I want to just kill that army, that's wrong. You have to kill his army for a reason. Right now, Flankzilla has no reason. None at all. So easy to do. Maybe I can kill it. Just because you can kill it doesn't necessarily mean that you should commit really hard to it. So here he is killing it off, and suddenly the map control of Flankzilla is enormously diminished. Where would be a really good place to expand? Boom, right there. Keeps coming up. Now, let's talk a little bit more about late game transitions. We have this Greater Spire here coming up. We have a Roach Warren coming up. Now, roaches have tons of wonderful places where they can live in our strategies and do great work. When we're ready to get maxed, do we really want roaches there? Not really. Do we really want a lot of mutalisks in our maxed army? Not really. We want infestors, broodlords, queens, ultralisks. These are our money late game units. Notice that the queen is one of the best units to have in a late game mix because the transfuse is just pivotal. And of course the ranged attacking air ability, pivotal in so many battles. So great. So here is a game where we saw a solid position going on and suddenly we're transitioning into a late game, but not a great late game. And in particular, this expansion and this expansion have not even been monitored at any point in time. Don't get into the habit of assuming, because assuming makes you fucking lose games you shouldn't fucking ever lose, ever. Way better than the ass out of you and me rhyme, huh? Don't you think? Assuming. Do you know what it makes you do? Well, I'll tell you. Alright, cool. Don't assume that he shouldn't take this expansion. Hell, I have played against a Terran player, I kid you not. I was Zerg, and the Terran player went double Hellion, cool, he tried to burn stuff, and you know what he did? He built a planetary fortress right here. My natural expansion was here. He built a planetary fortress here. He built a planetary fortress there, right there. Here is where he had it built. Now, for the record, he didn't win the game because he built no turrets by the planetary fortress, and I killed it off with more than one mutalisk. Bingo dingo, what a mingo! But he muled it so hard that it was at half resources. So it ended up being this epic struggle game where I just couldn't figure out why I was so low on resources. Well, he'd already mined so much of it. People are always capable of doing anything. So notice that suddenly we're doing this, this max 3/3 upgrade. We're doing our level 3 air upgrades. Actually, I just finished, I guess. Yep, there it is. And this is great. I mean, going in a Corruptor, Broodlord, Infester, but we're getting, we're getting Banelings, we're getting Roaches, we're getting more Zerglings, we're getting more Mutalisks. There seems to be no set plan for a basic composition. And basic late game compositions don't really need to be all that complicated. You don't need to think about them so hard. Early game is where you need to put in tremendous amounts of thoughts. That's where you really need to think about things like, am I safe against ghosts and banshees, and what about him doing this timing push or that timing push? But in the late game, you can say a very simple statement. I need a lot of ghosts against a Zerg. I want to have Corruptor, Broodlord, Infester against a Terran. Damn, I'm losing with Corruptor, Infestor, Broodlord to drops. Better get Spine Crawlers up against those drops. Very, very, very simple statements, but you have to have a statement of what that late game composition is. So Zerg, suddenly after losing this battle, you'll notice that I didn't even address the battle. What I want to address is the after battle portion, where Zerg suddenly goes, oh my god, I need to get a base up. Maybe I should kill off my own creep tour and take an expansion. Ah, look at the drones all freaking out. Oh, it didn't work. And now we have Roach Hydralisk going on, and though many of you may not have been around during the early mid-beta days and in the early mid-SC2 days, Roach Hydra's not actually a terrible composition against Terran. He has a lot of tanks that are going to struggle and you can't actually attack it, but you can get some amazing positions against it. As you'll see, this Roach Hydra force does very, very well against that Marine Marauder force. Very, very well. And this game is ending up being far more of a struggle than it should because of two reasons. We didn't manage his expansions, and likewise we didn't manage our own expanding, and we didn't quite get the right late game composition. And that's all I have to say about the issue for now. For next week's Newbie Tuesday, I want you to do the following. Go out, play some StarCraft, have some fun, and if you end up playing a really long game that goes to like 28 to 50 minutes, something nice and juicy, send me the replay to Tuesday@day9.tv. Include the usual stuff like your name, your rank, what race you were playing. But I want you to also state what your goals were expansion-wise throughout the game. Or hell, if you were too overwhelmed to think about that, just say that in the email. And if, for instance, you're having a really hard time figuring out mid and late game compositions to go for, go look up a player and try to mimic him. And tell me who you're mimicking. Just give me a nice little juicy bit of data about yourself. Don't make it too long. Write like 3-4 sentences. If you write an essay, it gets auto-deleted. There's actually a bot that deletes things that are too long because we get like thousands per week, so there's like no way physically possible to read like essay. And of course, attach a replay. For next week's Fun Day Monday, if you would be so kind as to submit to Monday@day9.tv a game of you playing Zerg where in every single attack you bring Spine Crawlers. Because defense is the best offense. That's the theme. Let's go ahead and just take 2 questions. I unfortunately went way too long, but we're going to take a lot more questions next week. Let's go ahead and refresh. I love that song. The song's so good. Yeah, here we go. Whooping Chow says, Day 9, how would you suggest moving your army and expanding if it's decidedly less mobile than your opponents? This is one of the most counterintuitive sounding things, but it actually ends up being a lot more comfortable when you start just accepting the strength of your own army. If you have a less mobile force, it will necessarily be a much stronger force. So you can march your army and begin doing this wiggle forward, where you envision, like, let's say, here's my base and here's his base, literally directly in front of me. I move out, and then I can move some units left and right, and I just begin sort of like wiggling my way forward. Something you see in Terran vs. Terran kind of happen in slow motion a lot. But that's exactly what Liquid Hero did. He moved this way, and then he kind of moved back and over and kind of worked his way in, and then he kind of pulled back and hit an expansion. Do a lot of pullback as well. Move your army just period to wherever you're in between. I think the best example of the less mobile army, Marine Tank versus Mutilating Baneling. Mutilating Baneling, way more mobile. But if you just plant some scans, if you're moving forward, plant some scans to the left. So that way you know what's up. Nice. And then just make certain you keep taking the expands. Keep taking them. If you're having trouble figuring it out, let me just give you the following guideline. At 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20, 25, literally starting at the 10 minutes and every 5 minutes thereafter, attack and take an expansion at the same time. With your attack, pull back. Don't be afraid to move up and move back. You don't have to let your stuff die. In fact, it's probably wrong to let your stuff die. Move forward, expand, pull back. Move forward, expand, pull back. Move forward. Oh, I can kill him. Kill him! Fist pump. One more question. Coop K asks a great question. When does late game technically begin? When you have everything you want? The honest answer is that there is no clear beginning to the late game. It's more of a hazy, fuzzy boundary. But for the purposes of trying to learn and figure stuff out, when you are on 3 bases and feeling really safe, that is, if mutalisks are flying around and finally they've stopped marching into your worker line and killing off all your workers. When you get to that point, that's when the late game really kind of begins, where you're moving out and expanding. Sometimes it begins a little bit before then, where you're on 2 bases and you have to move out to take your 3rd base. But that's about as early as it begins. And, excuse me, I think that's an extremely important question to ask. What is it that I want to have in my huge, scary army? Upgrades, expansions, all the right buildings, and most importantly, enough production facilities. I've seen a lot of people say, I macro well, I don't know why I lose. And they have 4 barracks and 1 factory on 3 bases. And I'm thinking, why don't you have 6 barracks and 2 factories? And it's very easy to trick yourself into thinking you are keeping your money low when you aren't building enough production facilities. One more caveat before I go. A very important thing to note. Don't expand too quickly. In that example I just said, where you have 4 barracks and 1 factory, you'll go, okay, have enough for my 3rd. You'll take a 3rd. And a minute later, your money will be high again. And you go, take a 4th. And then a minute later, take a 5th. When you take an expansion, build a lot more, like a lot more barracks, and then take another expansion, and then build a little bit more, and take another expansion, and build a little bit more. And a little bit more can even be things like a crap ton of cannons. Just make sure you are making use of that expansion and not getting a little overeager and jumping the gun on the expanding. Done with this daily. All right, I'm going to go to this thing, I'm going to play a song, and when I come back, I'm going to do some text twist. Literally, I'll be back in a minute.